Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the victory horns are sounding for one Mackenzie Dern. And man, if you are a fighter in the women's strawweight division, after seeing that performance, you are looking at Mackenzie Dern in an entirely different way, because she put the wood to Angela Hill over 25 minutes, 49-43 on one of the judges' scorecards, 49-44 on the others. Dominant, battering decision win for Mackenzie Dern. She gets it done. It was kind of like a bizarro fight, because you thought, you would think heading into this fight that if the striking was going to be the majority of the fight, it would be won by Angela Hill. And if things are going to take place against the fence, it'd probably be won by Mackenzie Dern. It was the opposite both ways, but Mackenzie Dern showed a lot of wrinkles to her game, some evolved striking. And yes, Jed Meshew, who is joining us right now, vicious ground and pound from Mackenzie Dern, something you and I have been discussing for a long time. Could she add that wrinkle to her game? And she did. What a performance, and we're here to talk all about it. Welcome to the UFC Vegas 73 post-fight show. I am Mike Heck. That is the aforementioned Jed Meshew. Can't wait to get his thoughts on this performance. And my best friend is here as well, Alexander K. Lee, who was just telling me that the new Fast and the Furious movie is awful and no one should see it.
I was going to say, Jed, would you say, apropos of, I don't know why this phrase comes to mind, that was the most Fast and Furious performance of Mackenzie Dern's career?
I would say it was one could say it's too fast and too furious at points.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
I agree. You might almost say at times it was like she was in like a Tokyo drift, like as far as her mindset goes. It was pretty impressive.
It was very fast and furious for all 5 rounds. It was fast 5 rounds.
It was a fast 5 rounds. Yeah.
That was pretty good. I did not expect that. That was excellent.
Look, we got plenty more where that came from, baby.
It's a lot more.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure the puns will be fast and furious throughout this post-fight show. Jed, let's begin with you, and let's talk about this performance from Mackenzie Dern, because you and I on various programs I don't know how many BTLs we were talking about heading into Mackenzie Dern fights, heading out of Mackenzie Dern fights over the last couple of years. If she could just learn to hit people while on the ground in these dominant positions, she is going to be a problem. And at one point in the first round, she landed an elbow. In our Slack chat, I'm like, oh my God, she landed an elbow on the ground. And I was like, maybe that's going to be the only one she landed. Boy, was I wrong, because she was just ruthless down there with those strikes. What a performance from Mackenzie Dern. Did she answer all of the questions you could have had about her? Because I'm sure you view her much differently now than you did heading into this fight.
She didn't answer all of them. There are still real questions about what Mackenzie Dern can do and kind of what her ceiling is. But this is the thing we've been waiting for. I'm not here to say that I'm a genius and I've been asking for this when no one else has. We've all been asking for this. All of the people know the same things we need to see here. We need to see you have better, more committed striking. We need to see you be able to actually take people down and not just kind of wish your way into these positions. And when you do get them down, you can't just try to cuddle everyone. You have got to hurt them when you can't, because that's what cost you against Yan Xiaonan. You got into dominant positions, but you spent the whole time fishing for chokes that you didn't get. And then Yan, every round starts in the feet. And that's how that fight went. This one, she didn't. I still have a ton of questions about her striking, because it was certainly effective tonight, and we can talk all about that. She is not winning any awards for technique, and that's going to be a problem against people with more firepower to fire back, right? Angela Hill can't hurt her on the feet realistically. Yan Xiaonan, we just saw lay out Jessica Andrade, so that same sort of ethic isn't going to work for Mackenzie Dern. But she answered the biggest thing I've wanted from her this whole time, is she was mean. You have to be mean to be an elite level fighter. There is maybe one fighter in the history of this sport who got away without being mean and was a top tier athlete. It was Damian Maia, and he notably never won a title, and it probably didn't help that he didn't want to hurt people. You got to hurt people. And it paid dividends because she got Angela Hill down in that first round and she didn't really try for submissions. She just beat the hell out of her. She tried a couple of times, but mostly she spent it laying the wood, as you said, Mike. And that adds up. That makes it more likely for other things to happen. And in that third round, before the big knee lands that we'll talk all about in the round 3, Angela Hill had started to tire, and she didn't tire because she was playing defense on the ground the whole time from chokes. She tired because she was getting her ass beat for big sections of the fight. So one of the biggest, question marks, the biggest wish list for Mackenzie Dern, she showed tonight. And so that elevates her and makes me very excited to watch her keep fighting.
AK, biggest takeaway from this performance. And I do want to give credit to Angela Hill because she fought out of some really tough positions tonight. She took a beating and just kept on coming. There were portions of that fight where she could have just let the beating continue and just got out of there, and she wouldn't allow that to happen. So all the credit in the world to Angela Hill for going the full 25 and making it to the final horn. But this is the Mackenzie Dern show, AK. What were your thoughts about it?
Mike, I've done a poll. How I don't know how to spell. It says how you grade Mackenzie Dern's UFC Vegas 73 main event win. Obviously, I mean, how do you grade Mackenzie Dern's win on Saturday? I gave A+, A, B, or C or lower. We've got A leading 41%, which I think most of us would agree on.
I'm so disappointed that wasn't a Fast and the Furious pun in that poll.
What would you have? I feel like there's an obvious thing.
Was it fast? Was it furious? Was it fast and furious?
How would you describe?
Or neither any of these things.
Neither fast nor furious, which would have been.
Was that more of a Letty? Was that more of a Letty performance?
Yes.
Or like what character
style?
did she best embody out there? I think
Gina
it was
Carano
Letty. There was a lot of
Letty
in Mackenzie Dern out there. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know. She didn't go. Did she go for the triangle? Did she go for the Letty Ortiz signature triangle choke?
She absolutely went for the triangle.
Oh, I might have missed that. Okay. There was a lot going on.
Round 2 or 3, when Hill follows her down into what is functionally a guard pull, almost immediately Dern gets a triangle. She doesn't get it locked on, but she gets the legs crossed, and then Hill goes, "Oh shit," and runs away. But yeah, absolutely had a triangle effort. It was great.
If only Hill had crazy horsed her like Charlize does in the new movie. Spoiler. I'm sorry. Spoiler. Anyway, most people are saying A. I know, terrible. I would probably lean A as well. If only because I think, if we say A+, then we're saying like, oh, well, there's no room for this is their best performance of her career. There's no room for improvement. It's up there. And I wouldn't mind people saying it's an A+. I said in our Slack, I'm almost more impressed by her, winning this dominant decision than a lot of us had predicted. Submission first round, second round. If this goes past that, we could see, Angela Hill, eventually figuring Mackenzie Dern out, being unable to be taken down, and just dominating the last 3 rounds on the feet. And that's not what happened. No one could have predicted it would play out like this with Mackenzie Dern. I'll hesitate to say looking comfortable, but certainly looking enthusiastic to exchange on the feet and getting the better of it on multiple occasions. So I really want to say A+. I really enjoyed the performance so much. If it's how fun was the performance, it's A++++. If we're talking okay, how much has she evolved? How to review her as a contender and things like that. Then I'm okay, fine. This was just an A. But just an A is very good. Her third time getting to main event a card. The other 2 did not go her way. Again, I don't know how much this improves her standing in people's minds as far as yes, now Mackenzie Dern is going to be she's put it all together, because clearly she hasn't put it all together. But man, that was so fun to watch, and it's so rare, guys, that we say this fighter just has to do this. We want to see a fighter do this, and then they actually do it. It just doesn't have. We there's some fighters we've been slamming our heads against the wall for their entire careers. There's fighters who were man, if only this fighter had done this, they might have become a top 5 fighter. They might have become a champion. And it just doesn't happen. And it's fine. Listen, they're the people in the cage. It's very easy for us to sit back here and say, hey, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just add this to your arsenal? Why don't you become better at this? Very easy for us to say it. So that's why it's so cool to see a fighter actually clearly hear this, not from us, but from her coaches, trainers, her peers, and implementing it in such an effective way as far as the ground and pound goes. And also, listen, keeping her not giving up on that striking, not accepting that, okay, I'm just a jiu-jitsu person. She wants to throw down. How is this going to work against, I don't know, higher ranked competition? I don't know. But Angela Hill is pretty damn good in the feet. So maybe she surprised Angela Hill. Maybe if they run this one back, Angela Hill has a different game plan, is more prepared for the stand-up. But got to give a lot of credit to Mackenzie Dern, though.
Completely agree with you. And both women are going to take home an extra 50 G's because this was the fight of the night, according to the UFC. And you know what? Yep. No brainer. Congratulations to both women. And, at least Angela Hill may not get the win bonus, but she can dry the tears with $100 bills and lots of them because she just won $50,000 for fight of the night. The other bonuses go to Diego Ferreira, which we're certainly going to talk about because that was an incredible knockout. And Slava Claus got himself a bonus. Natalia Silva does not get a bonus. I would have given her one just in general. She didn't even have to fight. She could have just stood in the octagon for 50 seconds and I would have given her a bonus because she's just a joy to watch inside that octagon. But to go back to the main event, Jed, and AK, we'll obviously talk about this tomorrow on to the next one. All week, Jed, Mackenzie Dern had been saying, I'm going to call out Rose Namajunas after this fight. She goes in there, has that performance, and she calls out Rose Namajunas, says, I have not been able to fight an ex-champion during this run. I think I now deserve the opportunity to do so. And we don't know what the hell's going on with Rose Namajunas at this point, but is this the right name to call out if you're Mackenzie Dern?
Love the call out. I mean, I think there weren't a lot of bad call outs for her in this situation, honestly, just because, and she sort of alluded to this, like most of the top 10 or 15 have sort of fought each other in a lot of ways. And she hasn't had an opportunity to really fight one of the top names. And this kind of would make sense. Like, I don't think there would have been a huge way to go wrong, but Rose Namajunas is probably the biggest risk, biggest reward, right? Like, there's a world where Mackenzie Dern can win that fight. And if she does, then she's just getting a title shot if she beats Rose Namajunas. But there's also a world where she gets dummied aggressively because Rose is very, very good at fighting when she's trying to fight people, unlike when she stands across the cage from Carla Esparza. But so I have no issue with the call out. I think it's pretty good. If she had called out Carla Esparza, I think that would have been fine. She kind of alluded to Yan Xiaonan. That's about the only one I think would be bad just because they just fought. But she gets Rose. I think that's okay. Jessica Andrade coming off the loss. That's not usually how the UFC does business, but I think anything's kind of fine. And I personally like the call out. I think she has a chance at getting it, which is always sort of the way I judge whether a call out is good or not. And I do think she has a shot at getting it. So it's not a bad call out by any stretch.
I also like the call out. I'm not sure if that's going to be the official match. We can pick up to think about that, but I think A performance, and then I think this is an A call out. AK, what say you?
I like the call out, and I'm actually really curious who you guys think would be favored if that fight were announced. I don't know, this week.
Rose.
Let's say this week. I asked how much.
Minus 250 at least.
Wow, really? This version of Dern. I don't
know if it'll be that high.
It was really impressive.
I
would certainly pick Rose to win. But I do wonder. People put in the YouTubers. I'm not going to throw a poll, but call it out in the comments. What do you give me some opening odds? The YouTube people are smart. Give me some opening odds for Rose Namajunas versus Mackenzie Dern. Let's say it's a main event. Let's say it's a fight night main event, not at the Apex, somewhere on the road. Fight night main event, 5 rounds. Rose Namajunas, Mackenzie Dern. Give me some odds, people. Not necessarily who you would pick to win, just who you think would be favored. So but I like the call out. The only problem with the Rose call out these days is that, and we say this, I feel like we mention this on every show, we just don't know when she's going to compete again, and if it's going to be at 115, because there has been a lot of talk about her trying her hand at 125, right? So it's always a good name to call out. I think it'd be a competitive fight with this version of Dern that we saw. If she keeps improving, along this line, there's no reason she can't compete with the top 5 in the division. But yes, you maybe want to go with someone who's like more of a short bet to eventually fight. But most people saying Rose favorite. Someone saying minus 1,200. It might be a bit much.
Minus 1,200. It's not true.
I think it's just a joke. Rose
minus 250.
Minus 250. Yeah, most people are in that range.
It's going to be minus 250.
I mean, 661. Rose minus 500.
No,
that'd be a bit high. Not just tonight.
Maybe. And look, I'm not here. This was a good performance, but like, I mean this in the nicest way I can possibly say this. She was minus 150 against Angela Hill. The gulf between Rose Namajunas and Angela Hill is enormous. And she was only a minus 150 over Hill. Yes, this performance was good. I think Rose is still a comfortable favorite in this one.
Yeah. I was going to say like
minus 5 feels a
200.
touch high.
Yeah,
Minus
that's a
5
little
feels a
high.
touch high. But if it wouldn't shock me if this was minus 3. I would bet minus 250. But if it was minus 3, I wouldn't be surprised.
If we're not getting Rose Andrade 3, then this is the exact fight I want for Rose Namajunas. This is the
Rose
one I want
Andrade
to see.
3 makes a ton of sense right now.
In any division.
Actually.
It could be 15 or 25. It doesn't matter. I don't care. That's the fight to make.
That's not a bad one. Cool. Dern can get Carlos Esparza. That feels like a fight that
Carla's pregnant and about to have a kid, so that ain't happening.
that's a long way.
Soon.
Yeah.
Okay, well then never mind. She can't do that.
She probably shouldn't do that. Yeah.
There's a reason I'm not on to the next one, except
sometimes
in
you
emergency capacities.
Sometimes you are.
It's okay. So great win for Mackenzie Dern. She showed a lot. I think she didn't answer all questions, but she answered a lot of them, and she took a huge step up and got it done. And we were kind of looking for Edmund Shabazian to see if he would answer some of those questions. And I think he did. I think he definitely answered some questions. That first round the old Edmund, it could have got real hairy in that first round, but he was landing some good strikes. He actually had Anthony Hernandez in a pretty tight submission, it looked like, for a few seconds, but Anthony stole some momentum. Shabazian kind of got just run over after that, but it's just a really bad. It turned out to be a pretty bad stylistic matchup for Edmund Shabazian, which a lot of us kind of thought it could be. But Edmund showed some improvements. Jed, did he not? Like at least early on, going from where he trained from originally to going to Extreme Couture, there were at least improvements that we have seen be over the last since the losing streak and snapping it, and then this fight with a really tough out at 185 and Anthony Hernandez. I saw some improvements. Did you?
Yeah, definitely, man. Like I don't know that Edmund Shabazian's ever gonna make a run at a title. He's still really young. You got to give him that. But I tweeted out because I believe this with my whole chest. If you go from a not good coaching staff to a good one, it's probably going to do better for you in your career. He still came up with an L here, and he still showed some of his historical problems of being able to kind of sustain offense as fights go on, and a relative weakness to grappling. But when we were talking about on the Slack, like he showed really good defense when he was done. And that is always an impressive thing to me, because you could pretty reasonably assert that Edmund Shabazian was cooked halfway through that second round. Like he didn't really have much to offer anymore. He's very tired. He may or may not have broken a rib. I know he told his corner that between second and third round. I've never broken a rib, but I can only imagine, based on people I know who have, that doing grappling with a broken rib and a man continually transitioning from top turtle to back control over and over again probably sucks all of the ass. So, but that didn't keep him down. Like he continued to fight. He showed really good defense. He knew what he was doing. He was very keyed in on sort of the ways that Hernandez was trying to attack him with the modified guillotine choke, kind of the offside to it. And he would always get his hips down and sort of move out. He just didn't have the energy or the ability to separate, get back to his feet, and kind of restart some offensive sequences of his own. But that's still more than, frankly, we've seen when like Derek Brunson was just taking him down and beating his head in. So he's getting better, and he's young, and he still has opportunities to improve, but he's got a lot of flaws that he still needs to work out. And he's really got to find a way to stop signing bout agreements against people who can grapple, because that just seems like it's not doing him a benefit at this stage.
Yep. Most bettors on Twitter were like, I love the fact that people are jumping on Edmund Shabazian. They were just biding their time and waiting to just dump a whole bunch of money on Hernandez once it got to the right price. And it looked like as today went on, these
Good
people
price.
got that price, and they were
It's a good
very
price.
happy with how things
He got
played
down to
out.
like
So
minus 200. It was a good price. My
he
gimmick
got
parlay,
under. He got under there.
nailed
Yeah,
it.
he was. I think it was like we were doing the People's pre-fight show. Is like minus 190. Joaquin Buckley and Natalia Silva were the only two fighters that were minus 200 and above. Everybody else was in the high ones or below that. So good on you guys. Good on you guys. And AK Fluffy Hernandez just quietly winning fights and doing so impressively. It is fun to watch this man fight. I don't know if I could, he is not a middleweight.
No.
I'm not putting him in that category at all, but 4 wins in a row, guy just continues to look better and better. He might not be fighting for the middleweight title next, but could he get a rank guy next? Are we willing to go that high? You don't have to name a name, but what did you think of his performance, this run that he's on? And if you were the matchmaker, you don't have to give a specific name. What level? We going like 20 to 25? We going top 15? What are we thinking here?
I would like to put him against someone in the top 15. I have a feeling he's not going to quite get there. And I'd have to think of the names. I know you said I don't have to name a name specifically, but probably to answer this question is better if I take a little gander at my middleweight rankings here. The highest you could go, I mean, Calvin Gastelum, depending on how high you rank him. I think Jack Hermanson would be a great fight. Jack Hermanson's coming off a loss. Brendan Allen has a fight. Mr. Main Event, Caio Borralho, but I kept saying he deserves a top 15. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe they both deserve a top 15 guy, but there's no real top 15 opponent that's shaking loose right now. So then they kind of have to face each other for now. So that's a possibility. I already had Fluffy sort of in my top 20 of just my UFC rankings, and this win over Edmund moves him up a little bit. But again, and he's not a top 15 guy now. Just moves him up just a tier below, So if it were up to me, I'd like to dig out some of the top 15. I have a feeling it'll be another unranked guy, but he's so close. I get the feeling the UFC likes him. His fights are pretty exciting. He's a fight finisher. They love that. He has a distinct style, Mike. Like we said, he's not quite a middleweight, right? Where he gets into these fights where it's like this muddy, murky. What do either of these guys do? Fights like this was a good fight. And again, I've been a little hard on Edmund. But he definitely, I agree. He improved. I didn't love the matchmaking. Not a terrible matchmaking at all. Not terrible matchmaking. But like I like Jed said, I wish there was a middle ground between letting him show off his specialty, which is striking, which he got doing his last fight, and testing his grappling. Like there must be an in between. Putting him up against a guy who's like such a specialized grappler. I mean, Anthony Hernandez does other stuff too, but he likes to get to the fight to the ground and just wear people down and beat them up. And we know that's Edmund's weakness. There has to be a middle ground between testing him and like exposing him. I don't know what that is. I don't envy the matchmaker's job when it comes to figuring out what to do with a talented 25-year-old guy like Edmund, while keeping him on the roster and you don't want to hand him easy wins and that. So it's tough. It's a tough situation. But I'd like to see Edmund get some sort of striker next, and for Anthony Hernandez, not quite top 15 yet.
Man, yeah, I don't know what his management team's thinking, putting him in a fight with Anthony Hernandez. Now he's gonna fight he'll probably end up fighting like Alyaskov Kizriev, who's just gonna like belly to belly suplex him in the first 14 seconds of the fight. But yes, I'm with you. Hopefully he gets himself a striker and we can move on and we'll just see what happens. But
honestly, there aren't a ton of strikers at middleweight as I'm kind of looking over it right now. Like,
yeah,
how about Chidi?
Chidi and Jaquani. I mentioned Armin Petrosian, like Bruno Silva. This is why you sign these guys. Like this is why.
No, I don't like that.
But this is why you sign. Like there's certain guys in middleweight that are like, oh, why does this guy exist? Like he's just kind of like a middleweight striker, and it's like, yes, those are the guys. That's what Delcha Lungiambula. That's why guys like Delcha were on the roster to fight guys like Edmund. Again, this wasn't like an atrocious matchup, but I would just like to see them let Edmund show off what he does best, which is what they did like his first 3 fights, right? And I guess they thought after those first 3 fights, you knock out Brad Tavares, huge win, that you have to like place him in a certain tier, and that's when they kind of already pushed him in the top 15. And MMA is a tough one, man. Once you open up that, once you open up the bottle, once you squeeze out the toothpaste, the contender toothpaste, there's no putting it back in. We saw that with Darren Till. Like Darren Till is a good fighter, but once he fought Tyron Woodley, suddenly it's like, oh well, he has to fight top 10 guys going forward now, and it's like, I wish we could rebuild people in MMA. We say this all the time, and so Edmund, there's so much time for him. But yeah, I wish they'd give him some fights that just build up his confidence a little bit. Not that he should be ashamed of like Saturday's loss.
No, it's just a tough matchup. Anthony Hernandez is really good. Just really, really good.
Yeah.
Lupi Godinez gets a nice win. Wants to fight September 16th, which is, I believe, is Mexican Independence Day. From what I understand, there is no card going to happen in Mexico this year unless something just magical happens out of nowhere.
Well, why would you want to do that in Mexico? You only have 3 Mexican champions and maybe a 4th coming on. Who the hell would want to go to Mexico?
It's tough.
Certainly not a promotion trying. You mean it's tough because Mexico isn't offering them a king's ransom to come to fucking Utah? Sure.
That's part of it.
Garbage ass promotion. It's just a garbage ass promotion.
Come on, Bellator. Get down there. Make something happen. Joaquin Buckley, nice finish of Andre Fialho. We know someone was going down in that fight. But I got to talk about CDF, Jed Meshew. I got to talk about Carlos Diego Ferreira. Man has not fought in quite some time since the Mateusz Gamrot loss. That was in December of 2021. Hadn't won a fight since beating Anthony Pettis. That was at UFC 246. That was before the pandemic. That was a month before the world shut down.
Yep.
He goes out and just runs over Anthony Pettis. And everyone thought this could be the dude. And then he wins his next, and then he just goes on and loses. And then he loses again. And then he loses again. And then he's got fights booked. And then they get canceled. And then another fight booked. And then he's injured. And then this happens. And then this happens. And finally gets in there with Michael Johnson. And we talk about middleweights. This was Michael Johnson fight. Because Michael Johnson comes out and looks great in the first round. Quick hands. He's landing everything. Comes out in the second round. And it's the same thing. We're like, wow, Michael Johnson. He's been saying, I want to go on this title run. Maybe this is it. Maybe he's about to go on this title run. And then kablammy, Carlos Diego Ferreira just lands this overhand right from hell. And Michael Johnson goes down. I mean, he is out like a light as soon as this shot lands. CDF, being the nurturing gentleman that he is, goes over and cradles Michael Johnson. It was a terrifying knockout, Jed Meshew. But CDF is back, and he got himself a freaking KO of the Year nominee, did he not?
I mean, yeah, I guess. Probably will be. It's going to at least make the doc as you're putting it together. It's a hell of a knockout. I just in general assume that some other knockouts will mean more and thus rank higher. But this was the second best knockout of tonight and the best one if you're not counting boxing. So particularly coming from behind and coming off a big long streak of losses. I do want to defend CDF for just a moment because look at the losses, right? Like, yes, he hasn't won in there are kids in freaking preschool who can say real words since the last time this man won a fist fight. But his losses, Benny Dariush, heard of him? He's doing pretty well these days. Gregor Gillespie, who also just doesn't fight anymore, but was very good at the time. And then Mateusz Gamrot, also doing okay. So, those are very fine losses. That's the best of the best at this weight class, the best division in the whole sport. So, coming back, getting a win over a arguably the sport's premier fighter who can pull defeat from the jaws of victory in Michael Johnson. I mean, it was a dope knockout. I don't have a lot to say on it. It's just it was really cool. Good for him. Let's try and fight more often now.
Yep. His 5 losses are the 3 you named. Another loss to Benny Dariush at UFC 179.
Another guy that's not too bad too, huh?
Yeah, and then there's this guy who's about to fight for the BMF title. His name is Dustin Poirier. That was the other loss.
Doesn't suck.
In 2015. And then he went 5-6 years without actually losing a fight.
I feel like if you're CDF, you got to look back on your career when it's all said and done, and you can draw a pretty clear line about where you were. Just be yeah, I know where I was in quality. I beat everybody who wasn't a top 15 dude. and maybe even like 1 or 2 top 15 dudes, but like that's where I was. Wasn't ever the best guy, but I was unequivocally one of the 20 best guys. And that's a pretty cool thing, man. I'd take being one of the 20 best people in the world at something.
Jed, you are one of the 20 best people in the world.
Probably.
Oh, that's
100%.
You didn't even say it's something. So that's just that statement is just one of the 20 best people in the world. Take it. I'll take it, Mike.
You're right up there, Jed. You're right up there. You're the Fast and Furious series of my heart. How about that? AK, what'd you think of CDF's performance? Was there another performance that that's going to be a memorable one? When you talk about this card again on like Wednesday or Thursday or something, what's the first thing that's going to pop into your mind that's not Mackenzie Dern?
Listen, I want to praise Joaquin Buckley and Natalia Silva, both of them. Joaquin Buckley, I think we all agreed. Andre Fialho, great matchup choice for him because he's a guy who comes forward and swings, and we want Joaquin Buckley to have openings to add to his highlight reel. He certainly did. He got a quote unquote TKO. I mean, that to me was a knockout. I guess
It
Fialho
was a TKO because Kerry Hatley tried to get
right?
man killed.
I don't know. I guess because Fialho kind of like came back to life. They're like, oh, he was the referee, just needed to save him. And it's like, no, I mean, yeah, he needed to save him earlier. So that was great. And then Natalia Silva living up to her billing as like a minus 1 million favorite. So great for both of them. Joaquin Buckley, especially new weight class, fantastic. Or back to welterweight, which he fought at before he was in the UFC. But I also need to shout out Fialho and Victoria Leonardo because I UFC, please never cut these fighters. We need people. It sounds so insulting, but we need tough fighters, respectable fighters who lose in memorable ways. Jed, we've talked about this on these preview shows and post-fight shows before. They're like
best ideas.
Right? No, it's true. They're like professional wrestling jobbers. Okay, you need a guy or gal who the fighter that you're kind of not only favoring, but kind of see star power in, so they can get their stuff off, get all their signature moves in. Just give the fans a real taste of like what makes them exciting and why they should be watching these people. If this is the first time you saw Joaquin Buckley, you saw the highlight reel before, you saw the Infukasanganai knockout, and you're like locked in. You're like, oh, cool. Let me see that's a great highlight reel. Let me see if he pulls it off again tonight. Boom. Big head, super cool, well-timed head kick. You're in. You're a Joaquin Buckley fan for life. You're telling your friends, I got to see Joaquin Buckley again. Natalia Silva, I don't know what casual person is tuning into the second prelim of the night, but just bear with me here. Heavily hyped. I think she's 26 years old. Everyone's saying she's going to just run through Victoria Leonardo. Guess what? She runs through Victoria Leonardo in very violent fashion. So again, and Leonardo is just too tough for her own good. She's always getting something, I think, broken or fractured when she loses. So in that sense, maybe we don't need to keep throwing in there. But as much, like I said, I want to give the flowers to Buckley and Natalia Silva, but I also got to give praise to fighters like Fialho and Leonardo. You need fighters who lose in an interesting way. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. For me, they're just as valuable, if not more so, than 500 fighters who occasionally like win, run off 4 straight uneventful decisions. Like, you need these fighters who lose fights. I don't know. Maybe I'm sadistic.
No, you're not. You need them. I call them the Jonathan Goulets of the world because if anyone here is old and watched like old UFC, Jonathan Goulet was like the platonic ideal of this, in that he was actually like could fight and thus had some skill, but he just had no chin. Like, he just simply could not take a punch, but he always also like dyed his hair colorfully. So he stood out in like a way that you could at least like remember him. And then he would get cartoonishly demolished whenever he lost. So he was like perfect for this. And we've got a few guys in the UFC, like Devin Clark. When he loses, it tends to be in funny ways. Like, we just need more people like that. Andre Fialho is really making a case to be one of those dudes, and that's great. It's a great role to serve in the organization.
Do not cut him. Please do not cut Andre Fialho.
Yeah.
I don't ask for much.
That's true.
Or Victoria Leonardo.
I'm not a doctor, and I don't know if this is actually true or not, but it looked like Natalia Silva broke her jaw, like broke Victoria's jaw. It was bad. I felt bad.
That
Every
photo
punch
of her,
she landed. Yeah, that was bad. Nasty knockout.
That
from
photo of Leonardo just like looking like she regrets every life choice that led her down this road is tough. It's a tough place to be.
That's how you fight as a minus 900 favorite. You go out there and you blow the doors off and you get a quick finish. So impressive stuff. Gilbert Urbina, good for him. Hasn't fought since the tough loss to Brian Battle in the finale and comes out and he trucked Ryan Kosi, just trucked him and took 20% of his money in the process because Kosi missed weight. Karolina Kovacevic, what a resurgence for Karolina.
Three straight, my best friend. She's streaking.
3 straight wins.
She is streaking.
Andre Arlovsky-esque right here from Kovacevic.
Maybe. Yeah.
We need more Andre Arlovskys in the game too.
Themba Gorimbo.
His first UFC win.
First UFC win. What a story he is. Put over Colby Covington in his post-fight scrum, if you want to check that out. But Jed, before we go to the peeps, I want to leave it to you to discuss the one fight we have not discussed. Just the no-brainer of no-brainers in NBB community. Rodrigo Nascimento versus Ilir Latifi. This had to have scratched you right where you itched, right? This is this is electric, right?
I want you to know I had a great night betting. Just outside of being successful, this was the easiest heavyweight over of my life. It was at minus 110. Over 2.5 was minus 110, which feels like a highway robbery. I had that turned on and I wanted to watch the first minute to see if this would even be like somewhat sweaty. And almost immediately I was just like, well, I'm just gonna go cook dinner now and I'll come back to this in 15 minutes because there ain't no way this thing's not going the distance. It was magic. I loved every awful minute of this horrible fight. I know the rest of you didn't, and that's reasonable. But if you ever want to spice up a bad card like this, just bet heavyweight overs because it makes you enjoy the worst fights of the evening. And Mike, you know what? I'm looking at it right now. Of the 17 heavyweight fights in the UFC this year, 10 of them have hit their overs. This division's the best.
Heavyweights, this card wasn't high on the card, but heavyweights being put, when they just randomly put like a heavyweight fight in like the co-main event and stuff like that. Heavyweight fights being like guaranteed action, or at the very least like we'll get a knockout out of it or something, is like one of the biggest. I don't know why the UFC has pushed this myth for so long, because like for every like crazy,
they all have knockout power.
Oh, of course. I'll tell you something. A lot of these heavyweights do not have knockout power apparently, but for every like crazy Chris Barnett like spin kick knockout, you get like. These days, you get like 4 or 5 of these. You have 4 or 5 that Latifi, Nascimento, Carl Williams, Chase Sherman. Another law. I don't know how. We all know that Jed, you took a hit recently with the Valentina loss. I feel like these heavyweight overs are just bringing you back single-handedly. Like some of them are just so obvious.
10-7 on the year. It's been great.
My God.
And almost all of the losses, I knew they're coming. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna do it on the principle, but Jailton Almeida's probably not gonna make it 7. It's right. It's just is what it is. But yeah, it was ridiculous. I don't know why we keep like. Would anybody really be upset if Rodrigo Nascimento and Ilir Latifi never fought again? Like, would anyone be down other than those two gentlemen and their families? I don't think we needed this fight, but. It happened. It's a good smoke break fight, and I won. ChatGPT hit this week too, baby. Let's go. All the gimmicks. And my gimmick bet, my gimmick parlay. I gimmick parlayed.
This was the
Hernandez.
brothers. This wasn't the brothers one? The brother they beat up.
Well,
they beat up a guy who got beat up by brothers or something.
No. Orion Koski and Edmund Shabazian both have wins over a guy named Daniel McWilliams, he's like Jay Silva or whatever. Like he's like one of those.
Jay Ellis.
He's Jay Ellis, not Silva. Yeah, Jay Ellis. Like he's like a 10-58 jobber or whatever. And I figured this out during the show where Orion beat him after his brother beat him. Like a month later, he watched his brother nuke this dude in the first round and was like, I too should beat that gentleman with the 10-38 record. And so on principle, I was like, let's just bet against the two people who decided to put this man on their resume.
Yeah. Wait, he also
Easy wins.
He also lost to the Shabazian brothers.
No, yeah,
Well,
also
that was
lost to the Shabazian brothers as
Incredible.
well. So
That's why you
why
had to.
this was like, I'm just
yes.
going to fade the Shabazian and Koski brothers.
What
Easiest bet of my life. Felt so great.
You have to be the only person who had this parlay in the universe.
It was the dumbest parlay alive. Cashed without trouble. It was great.
God.
I mean, this card was just full of interesting factoids on the regional scene. Because speaking of Jay Ellis, Nick Fiore, his first 2 pro wins are against Jay Ellis. First 2. And
Nick Fiore doesn't have a good resume if you look at it.
First 50-second submission, 90-second TKO. That's how Nick Fiore's career started, and both were against Jay Ellis, who at the time was 15-98. He is now 16-108.
I should have thrown Chase Hooper into the parlay and just parlaying those people and retired. Just retired from gambling with that. Because Chase was plus money and Urbina was like minus 110. Awesome.
Jay Ellis is right. I'm telling you, this is so fast. Jay Ellis's Tapology page is one of the most fascinating reads ever. This dude fights like every month, sometimes twice a month. He's already fought twice this year. He's supposed to box in April. I don't know what happened, but this dude's going to fight like 5 more times this year at least. But just a very interesting retrospective on the old Tapology page.
The great Gerald Mearshart has a victory over him.
That's true. No, Jay beat Gerald, right?
He may have beat him earlier, but I know that Gerald does have a win over him. I don't know if Jay's beaten like 4 people or something like that.
I just want to give the final poll results of the how would you grade Mackenzie Dern's performance from Saturday. Listen, A 41%, A plus 33%. So 74% combined saying, she had great for A or A plus. That's not bad. There's a few like C or lower. It's gotta be just haters. I just kind of put that option just because I don't know, just for the haters, I guess. So 7% haters, you've been spoken for. But almost 75% saying A or A plus. It was a great night for Mackenzie Dern.
He does have a win over Gerald Mearshart, by the way. March 2007.
The first guy to beat him. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah, it was Gerald Mearshart's second pro fight. He was 1-0.
Okay.
He also has a win over Daniel Strauss. How about that? But I mean, just this dude's fought everybody. I just fought Anthony Pettis on the regional scene.
I want to talk to that man so badly.
I think
we should go to the Peeps. We're now in Jay Ellis territory. That means it's time to go to the Peeps, I think.
Yeah, let's go to the Peeps.
We're in Jay Ellis territory. Let's go to the Peeps.
If we don't, I'm about to turn this into a full-blown Fast X conversation. So
I've been holding back.
We'll take a few questions and then we're going to get out of here.
We'll take all questions about Jason Momoa. So if you see any of those, AK, make sure to flag them.
I will. Yeah, I'll send them to Kenny.
Jed, you probably watched this fight. I mean, I don't think anyone really watched this fight very closely, but would you say Ilir Latifi was robbed? Because literally I needed about 90 seconds to realize that it was time to go walk my dog as that fight was playing out. And I don't think he was robbed.
He was not robbed. I don't. If you won, it didn't matter who won this fight. No one by the structures of the fight could call robbery on here. If you want to make a case for Ilir Latifi winning it, like I can accept it, I guess, but he wasn't going to win it. I was extremely certain that Nascimento was getting it because he just walked forward more. And they both didn't do much, and he walked forward more, and so that's going to win. And he landed the better shots. So, Ilir getting 1 takedown, might have gotten 2. I guess he got 2 because he got 1 the second and the third. But no, it's fine. Who cares is the real answer to this question.
I'm looking just for context. I'm looking at MMA decisions. All but 1 media member scored it for Nascimento. And there is a 30-27 in there. Just 1 person scored it for Ilir Latifi. Most people are on 29-28 for Nascimento. So
If they had scored that for Latifi, my reaction would have been, well, that's probably not great, but okay.
Yeah.
Moving on. Like it's just is what it is.
Casey,
Yeah.
whatever you do, please do not pull up this question from Casey Carpenter. I refuse to answer
no.
it. Do not put this on screen. Do not
Now
put
I
it.
need to
Casey
know.
Carpenter, I see you. I will not answer this question. How dare you?
Casey Carpenter, I want to know what it is.
No, now I have to
People,
look now.
people on the YouTube can read it themselves. People in the who listen to this on podcast later, you're crap out of luck. All right, I don't even want to acknowledge the phrasing of this question.
Oh,
You're such a hater.
I don't even want to say. I want to explain it because people who listen to the podcast, I feel so bad because people who listen to the podcast are like, this whole segment is like, what the hell's going on? But there's a phrase. Listen, there's a phrase used in the media and among fans now when describing a tough fighter. All right, we'll put it. Casey Carpenter is asking, AK, who has the most dog in them in the new Fast and Furious movie?
I mean, there's a
For
very
anyone who
clear
hasn't-
answer.
For anyone, okay, Jed, before you can answer this question in earnest in a moment. Probably people, not everyone saw this tweet. I tweeted, if you, I think I said specifically people in the media, if you use the phrase "so and so has that dog in them," like without irony, I lose all respect for you at this point. It is so that, and I guess I also hate like, oh, he's him, she's her, like after a big like play or whatever. Like, guys, we gotta expand our vocabulary
Okay,
here.
who's him in the Fast and Furious universe?
That's
Who
this
is
is
him?
the exact same thing. You might as well ask this, or her in the Fast and Furious universe. But I'm so tired of this phrase. Please stop using it. Like there has to be another way. I know it's just tiresome for us to say so and so's tough. They're tough. They're tough. I get it. It's the same thing. It's just as tiresome, but it's like it's just almost like it's trying a little too hard. And I'm done with it. I cannot hear someone's ask, does so and so have that dog in them anymore? I can't. Or they do have that dog in them. It means nothing. It means nothing anymore.
That being said, Casey Carpenter, the answer is very clearly Han, as he came back from being dead. So he got that dog.
Yeah,
in
he
him.
wins.
Inexplicably, by the way. Still not explained. Just for the record.
There are spoilers. There are a couple more that are unexplained.
They will
No
be.
one dies in this franchise. Ironic. No one dies in the franchise except for, paradoxically, the actor who tragically passed away in real life. His
Oh.
character is still alive.
I don't
just
want to go on a
doesn't come
rant.
around anymore.
Okay, I promise I will not hijack this in terms. But
Too late.
we
Too
are
late.
now 3 movies since Paul Walker actually died. It is getting so uncomfortable every time they try and mention and write off like why he's not there, why his character's not there.
They
Because they still
keep bringing back Jordana Brewster.
They still have barbecues. They still have parties. And it's like, okay, I get it. You can say like, well, we don't want him to come on the missions anymore. He's looking after the kids. There's no explanation why he's like, why can't him and the kids come to the parties? Why can't why is he not?
His wife is there.
Maybe
He's
Andy
just
Social.
not.
And I'll say this. I got to give another spoiler. In the new movie, I'm sorry. In the new movie, there's a
insane.
scene where this guy, like Mia is being attacked inside the house. And then you see unseen assistance from off screen. You see like, oh, one of the attackers gets taken off screen. And for a second, Jed, I thought they're gonna be like, thanks, Brian. Thanks for taking care of like, oh, Brian's alive. He's just off camera fighting guys. You just don't see him anymore. I thought for a second, I was like, that's not what it turns out to be. But I thought for a second, like, oh God, no, don't do this. Don't
Honestly,
do it.
I might even respect it if they
No.
just went that far.
No.
But like
You just-
it's insane that Jordana Brewster keeps showing up in these movies
Well, you need
because
her.
they could just leave her out. Like if I was watching that movie and she just wasn't at the barbecue, I would not have been like, "Huh, where's your sister, Dom?" I'm like, "Oh, that makes sense. She's off with the kids and Brian."
I have so many things to
It's
say right now,
insane.
and I just
Well,
Casey,
yeah,
put up another
Han-
question quickly. Put up another
Han-
MMA question, please.
Han has that dog in him.
Yeah, all right.
Han came back to life.
I'll go
All
with that.
right. Is this?
What do you want me to say,
want-
bro? As that grit and determination? I
Sure,
love it.
sure. I
Sure.
get
that's
it. It's
fine.
not. It's these are word. I get it. These are we're trying to find
Let's bring-
new ways to say things.
Let's
move
bring
on.
back. Listen, there's not a lot of ways to
Like-
say it, but let's bring back. Let's just shuffle through them like every couple of decades. Gorilla Monsoon, you say he has that intestinal fortitude. Let's bring
Yes.
back intestinal fortitude. How about
Great.
that?
He's got sand.
He's got sand.
Sand.
That's so good.
Very good.
I want to bring back
That's so
sand.
good.
He's got sand.
He's just got
Let's
sand.
do that. All right,
Han's
let's
got
go.
a lot of
Let's
sand.
go sand for the next few years. Then we'll go back to intestinal fortitude, and then maybe a decade from now we'll revisit the
AK,
dog.
does
thing.
John Cena have sand, AK?
Not in this movie. Not in this one. Not in 10. He's like super Disney character, nice guy. In this, it's such a strange movie.
That's just who John Cena is as a person, so it's fine.
Yeah,
He's
he's
getting
just
up there
being
in
John
age.
Cena. Yeah, he's just being John Cena in this movie.
The only thing I've seen, like I saw a couple trailers, and the one thing that I can't get out of my head is Vin Diesel punching Jason Momoa, and it just looks like his arms weigh 5,000 pounds. Like he just can't get it over, and he's just punching, and each punch takes like 11 seconds to get to his face, and Jason Momoa just stands there smiling because they can't possibly have an effect on him because they're coming so slow at him.
Mm-hmm.
That's my only takeaway.
Dom is if you go back and watch one, the physical difference Vin Diesel
Oh.
over the 15 years, he was like, built and trim. He is just
Sleek.
wide. Now, there's a reason he is never not wearing a tank top.
All right, let's not shame anyone, but we will say they show a picture. For some reason, they use a file photo of Vin Diesel from an older movie in this movie. And I'm like, why would you do this? Why? Like he doesn't even look like the same guy.
Why did they do any of the things they did?
I don't know. Jed, we are going to do an emergency pod, I think, just for note. I don't even know where we're going to
should.
release it. I don't know what we're going to do with it, but I have so many thoughts.
I'll put it up under the dam. Damn, that movie ruled.
Let's do it.
Jason Momoa has so much fun.
There wasn't even an MMA fighter in this movie for us to like connect it. We were hoping like to have because Francis was in the last one. No, Francis was 9. Gina Carano was in 6, and Ronda was in 7.
Jason Statham's probably trained MMA at some point.
He should count.
Has there been an actual MMA cage in an episode yet?
Shockingly, no. Shockingly,
that is honestly pretty surprising, but no.
They've been to space, but they haven't been in a cage yet.
They cooled off. They cooled off from MMA when their 2 MMA fighters were Gina. We know where Gina's at currently, and Ronda, who's one of the worst actors I've ever seen. That's like look. Not everyone can do it. I'm not saying I'd be a good actor either. She was abhorrent, and I think they may have decided to go in a different direction.
Yeah.
Get burnt out MMA fighters, Jason Momoa. I know which directorial choice I'd be making if I'm trying to round out my cast.
I'm biting my tongue right now. I have so much to say.
Brie Larson Oscar winner, Ronda Rousey.
There is
one of the worst actors of all time.
There are 4 Academy Award-winning actresses in this movie.
I know. It's
Rita Moreno
best.
is in it as the grandmother we've never heard of. She suddenly shows up. She's an EGOT winner, guys. She's got Emmys, she's got Tonys, Oscar.
She got
Grammys. She got them all.
list.
She's in this movie.
Best.
Charlize in like her 3rd Fast and Furious movie. We know she won Best Actress for Monster. Of course, people remember. Brie Larson, she won for Room. She's a Best Actress winner.
She's so bad in this movie.
Oh, Helen Mirren, the Queen,
Mirren,
shows up.
Helen Mirren.
Again, this is like her 4th Fast and Furious movie. So
Helen Mirren is Jason
Academy Award-winning
Statham's mom. Yeah, she came in like 4 movies ago. She's Jason Statham's mom in canon.
Wow.
But also is like friends with Dom for reasons.
no one in this movie who's supposed to be related to someone looks like each other. Okay, I'm sorry. Go.
No.
Casey, get a question, please. Get a question. Stop me.
I don't want to talk about the card anymore. I'm over it. I'm over it. Like
Brie Larson and Scott Eastwood are siblings in this film.
No, he's not really related.
I thought he was Mr. Nobody's son.
No, they joked about it.
Oh,
this is getting
whatever.
This is getting way too granular.
I have no idea what's happening.
I'm sorry.
I've seen I've seen the first 1.5 of these films, and then that's it.
I'm sorry, Mike.
But this is probably more enjoyable, just like trying to figure out what the hell you're talking about than the actual movies would be for me.
I just know something about family. That's all I know.
I was thinking about it in the theaters.
Always.
I was like, if you went back to whatever year the first one came out, and you told anyone who watched that movie and were like, within 15 years, this franchise is going to go to space, no one would believe you. And yet here we are.
I watched
you
that.
know
just
what?
because of
We
the space.
successfully hijacked this conversation.
Yes,
Way to
I
go,
think
Alex.
I've listen. I just got a message on our Slack channel that we need to go to space, and by that means we need to get out of here. So you can go ahead and hit our
Okay.
space exploration music, Casey. AK and I will be back tomorrow morning to discuss this card a little bit further, and only
Fast
this
and
card,
Furious?
AK.
Okay.
And only this card. On to the next one, going down.
AK, for
we will
me,
matchmake
tell
for the
me who
winners.
needs to show up and who's the new actor that needs to make it to Fast 11?
Leonardo
You know, they're
DiCaprio.
always bringing in a new. I don't think he's going to do it.
Give me
John
DiCaprio.
Chris Hemsworth, I think there's a real shot though. I think we can get him.
His wife, Alena.
I know.
Alena Evans. Okay.
But
Daniel
she's
Day-Lewis?
one of
Daniel
two
Day-Lewis?
people that has ever
Daniel
died in
Day-Lewis,
the,
come out
in
of
the movie.
Daniel Day-Lewis,
Daniel
come
Day-Lewis.
out of retirement for the Fast and Furious. And
I
that's
would,
what Dana
I
White
would
ended.
spend $400 to watch that movie in theaters. if DDL showed up.
I would-
DDL's the big bad. God.
Well, thank you for watching the UFC Vegas 73 post-fight show, and
Oh, is that what this is about? I had no idea.
and also our new segment, a critical eye, based on movie reviews from MMA fighting staffers, AK Lee and Jed Meshew. We thank you very much for joining us. Good night, everybody, and may all your cinematic dreams come true.
I'm so proud of us, AK. I love y'all.
The hell are we doing?
They asked the questions. We're here for the people, Mike.